From the outside, Celine Tam's journey on America's Got Talent seemed full of endless possibilities. But behind her sweet smile and haunting voice, there was deep sadness. In this video, we'll talk about the heartbreaking events that almost derailed her path to international stardom, including strained family ties, rumors of exploitation, and a father dealing with hostile allegations. Her story is much more complicated than any thunderous standing ovation could have imagined, and her quick rise has taken a terrible toll. Join us as we look into the tragedy that Celine Tam's amazing life outside of America's Got Talent. A star emerges from the darkness in the crowded, neon-lit streets of Hong Kong. A young girl with an amazing talent was about to capture the world. Born on November 22, 2007, Celine Tam had an angelic voice and a charismatic personality that made her seem destined for greatness long before she went on America's Got Talent. When she was just a few years old, she amazed local audiences with vocal control that belied her age, and teachers and neighbors were amazed by her uncanny ability to emote like a seasoned performer. But few realized that her father, Steve Tam, saw Celine's potential early on. As a music lover who had tried singing himself, he threw everything he had into developing her talent. Family stories told of him leading Celine through daily vocal drills and demanding accuracy in even the smallest details. For some, his involvement was proof of his love for her, while for others, it was a sign of what was to come. Even though there was no direct proof of unfair pressure, hushed conversations pointed to a father whose worries about his daughter's health might one day become too much for him to handle. Celine's first big break came in local TV competitions, where she sang challenging ballads that complemented her petite frame. The audience was thrilled by her flawless performance of songs that were usually performed by bigger stars. Adult Hong Kong media outlets called her a wonder child and flooded the Tam family with interview requests behind the cameras. However, rumors started to spread about the endless practice sessions. Some said that the Tam family's life revolved entirely around Celine's vocal training, leaving little time for normal childhood pleasures like play dates or weekend fun. When she finally made it to America's Got Talent, the world watched as the tiny singer walked on stage with wide eyes, thrilling the crowd, and judges Simon Cowell and when she introduced herself, Cowell and others were visibly moved. She chose the challenging piece My Heart Will Go On as a tribute to her namesake, Celine Dion. The performance was breathtaking, a crystalline demonstration of her extraordinary talent. However, in the happy aftermath, the seeds of heartbreaking complexity took root. A 9-year-old girl was thrust into the global spotlight with the weight of high expectations. Applause echoed across continents, and videos of her audition got millions of views online. People all over the world saw the sweet, confident little girl who could easily belt out ballads, but those closest to her could feel a strain. The bedtime lullabies she used to sing for fun were now overshadowed by structured rehearsal schedules. Fans praised Steve Tam as a devoted father who gave up his own goals to help his daughter succeed, while critics warned of exploitation and worried that Celine's happiness might be lost in the process. As the curtain fell on her successful audition, a new chapter of before Celine Tam's big break, the judges on America's Got Talent praised her so much that she became famous right away. Media outlets rushed to feature the child wonder who could sing as well as the biggest divas, and she got invitations to radio shows, talk shows, and special appearances. Her future seemed bright, but behind the scenes things weren't always so glamorous. Celine's days became more structured early on. Morning vocal exercises, then meetings with her tutors, more practice, and finally more vocal exercises. Her father, Steve Tam, planned her schedule with military-like precision. When people asked if this was too much for a young girl, he said that Celine's love for singing drove her dedication. But some people could feel tension in the air. A child who used to sing just for fun now had to please fans and meet contractual obligations. As her fame grew, the more attention she got. Keeping an eye on the whole Tam family, observers noticed that Celine's mother was often seen quietly in the background and rarely spoke out in public. This led to rumors about whether she didn't like how fast Celine's career was growing or whether she just wanted a more private life away from the drama of show business. The rumors ranged from mild curiosity to wild theories of internal family strife. None of them were proven, but they all added to the feeling of impending heartbreak. In the meantime, Celine had to deal with the expectations that were put on her by everyone. Schoolwork took a back seat to rehearsals and performances, and teachers who were worried about her absences quietly asked whether her desire for fame might hurt her long-term development. Despite the many different opinions, Celine kept a calm and polished public face when asked in interviews about missed classes. She smiled politely and said she was keeping up with her studies just fine for a while. Each new performance on American Idol renewed the world's fascination with her as she belted out popular songs with an judges praised both her voice and her ability to stay calm under pressure. Social media was full of praise, and she was called unstoppable, but some fans couldn't get rid of the feeling that her sparkle came with an unspoken cost. Sometimes she looked tired or distant in backstage clips, which made people wonder if she ever had time to just be a kid. The Tam family kept going, and Steve kept getting offers from recording studios, brand endorsements, and event planners. Photographers took pictures of Celine at airports, sleepily clinging to her luggage after long flights on different continents. The story of the unstoppable child star hid the quiet signs of exhaustion. Fame had given her amazing opportunities, but the heartbreak was clear to anyone who looked closer. Even as the public cheered her on, storms raged behind the cameras. Some fans worried that her intense lifestyle could hurt her as a teenager, while others defended the Tam, praising them for making the most of Celine's amazing talent. Celine was too young to fully handle this conflict, but she did her best to shine for every camera. But there were signs that even the brightest rise can have dark sides, and that heartbreak could soon overpower the applause if her world got too out of whack. Family ties are family tensions. While Celine Tam's rise to fame on America's Got Talent seemed smooth to outsiders, rumors of tension within the Tam family grew louder. Steve Tam is often called There was more and more interest in Celine's trainer. Was he a supportive father who made sacrifices to nurture an extraordinary talent, or did he push too hard, risking heartbreaking consequences for a child who might secretly want a slower pace? There was a lot of speculation every time Celine talked about her personal life in interviews. She praised her father's guidance, but she often looked at him when reporters talked about more sensitive topics. Some saw this as a sign of a close bond, while others saw it as a sign of a close relationship, interpreted as a young girl being taught not to go beyond what is acceptable. When paparazzi caught the father-daughter pair having heated arguments, tabloids ran stories implying that Steve's ambitions overshadowed Celine's mental health. There were also conflicting reports about the role of Celine's mother, who was much less visible to the public. Some outlets said she silently disapproved of the strict schedule Celine was forced to follow, while others said she was fully supportive of her working. Because she didn't do interviews, gossip sites filled in the blanks with dramatic guesses, spreading rumors that the Tam family was fighting over how to handle Celine's career. People who knew the family well painted a more nuanced picture, saying that Steve Tam loved music and was proud of his daughter's skills. He reportedly worked multiple jobs to pay for her vocal lessons, travel, and performance clothes, and he wasn't a money-hungry person. Opportunist, he was described as a father whose greatest joy was hearing Celine's voice grace a huge stage. But the question remained, could even the best intentions lead to tragedy if they are overshadowed by relentless pursuit? Celine herself was caught in the middle. On the one hand, she was thankful for a father who spent countless hours teaching her, but on the other, her schedule was so tight that she barely had time for school events or carefree hobbies. Some people wondered if she even had the time for them. Journalists found examples of young stars in similar situations where fatherly love turned into suffocation, preventing a child's natural growth. The heartbreak in Leigh's story was that her private life was falling apart while she stayed the same bright, polite performer on stage. Sneak peeks from behind the scenes showed her being tired and under a lot of emotional stress. Moments of tension between her and her father caught on short-lived backstage footage sparked new overtime. It became harder and harder to tell the difference between the rumors and the truth. For every interview where Steve talked about how proud he was of his daughter's strength, another story would come out saying that he micromanaged everything from her hairstyle to her social interactions. Celine's mother didn't say anything in public, so outsiders could read her silence in any way they liked. Throughout it all, Celine's voice remained as beautiful as ever. The heartbreaking possibility it seemed like this might be the calm before a bigger storm. A child star's precarious balance between family love and suffocating expectations. When applause isn't enough on America's Got Talent, the roar of a standing ovation can feel like the pinnacle of validation. For Celine Tam, those moments were both euphoric and fleeting. Once the curtain fell, she faced a truth that few child performers talk about openly. Applause doesn't get rid of self-doubt or guarantee emotional safety. It was heartbreaking how much pressure it put on a girl who should have been enjoying the simpler things in life. Social media made this dynamic, Celine's Instagram, explode with both positive and negative comments. Fans gushed about her vocal prowess, while critics questioned her authenticity or made guesses about her father's influence. Even small mistakes, like a note that was a little off or a missed lyric, could be broken down in viral posts for a preteen. As her number of likes and followers grew, so did her stress about living up to everyone's expectations. In private, Celine was said to have struggled with the emotional toll of being so well known. Friends said she would sometimes look wistful, jealous of friends who could spend the weekends at birthday parties or the mall instead of rehearsals and press duties. While she loved singing, the reality of paparazzi stopping her at airports or fans demanding selfies when she just wanted to grab a snack started to wear her young appearance. She was excited on stage, but the applause quickly faded when she got back to her hotel room to get ready for the next event. Her heartbreak grew whenever rumors spread that her father was too involved. Steve Tam defended his parenting in multiple interviews, saying that Celine's welfare came first. However, tabloids jumped on any controversy they could find, publishing stories that he scolded Celine for small vocal mistakes or her stage posture. Whether the stories were true or not, they all pointed to a child star. Some fans rallied to defend Steve, while others condemned him without hesitation, adding to Celine's stress. Many child celebrities reach a point where the spotlight shines too brightly on them. And that moment seemed to get closer and closer for Celine as she moved through the AGT competition. Even though she didn't win, her fame was on par with that of many winners, and she was invited to perform Sword on other major platforms and talk shows. People loved her story. Celine was a sweet girl from Hong Kong with big dreams who became famous all over the world. But in her tightly controlled world, the lines between personal aspiration and outside pressure were blurred. Behind the scenes, her mother tried to keep things normal by planning small family dinners, insisting on occasional days off, and protecting Celine from the most demanding fans. But the pressure of stardom never really stopped, and managers and producers saw fans as a golden opportunity. People begged for more performances, and critics wondered how long a child's voice could last. Each request to sing at a charity gala, holiday special, or new show came with its own mix of excitement and tension. This meant that the applause, while validating, was also misleading. Every positive headline meant that there were new stakes to meet. The heartbreak was that applause alone couldn't protect Celine from burnout or the tragedy of losing her childhood. As the years went by, Celine Tam began to, as she went from being a little girl to a teenager, the problems she faced changed. For example, her voice changed because a child's vocal cords are fragile and adolescence is known for being erratic. The high notes that had amazed America's Got Talent viewers became harder to keep up. On social media, some fans said her voice sounded different, and some critics said she might be losing her edge. The heartbreaking truth was that nature was just taking its course behind the scenes. Insiders said that Celine's father, Steve Tam, increased the number of practice sessions and pushed her to adapt quickly. Voice coaches were hired to help her through this transitional period. Celine, who had already given up many normal childhood experiences, was faced with yet another mountain of work. Even though she loved performing, the constant focus on improvement made the pressure even higher. Every flaw in her range was scrutinized by both family and an ever-watchful public. As if singing wasn't hard enough, Celine also had to deal with schoolwork. Even though her tutors were on the road, she sometimes fell behind her classmates. When she was invited to perform overseas, she missed even more school, even though she did well in music classes. Keeping her overall education in balance became difficult. Some teachers told her parents she needed more stability and rest, but her career was moving so quickly that there wasn't much time for that. During this storm, Celine's mental health became a growing concern for those close to her. She had episodes of exhaustion, tears before bedtime, and the occasional emotional outburst which showed that she was pushing herself to the limit. She had fans all over the world, invitations to prestigious events and glowing media coverage, but the heartbreak was that all of these accolades didn't help her deal with the increasing demands on her daily life. Rumors about problems at home started to spread again. One source said that Celine's mother she changed her schedule scheduled to have a more normal teenage life, but her father insisted on making the most of every chance before the spotlight went away. There was also talk that disagreements with managers caused some appearances to be suddenly canceled, but no official statements were made. The rumors added to the tragedy of a family split apart by the relentless march of fame, and Celine's online fans noticed small changes in her behavior during live streams or interviews. In interviews, she still smiled, but pauses or changes in size showed that she was hiding deeper feelings. Some fans thought she was over it and tired of all the attention, while others thought she was just as determined as ever and just having trouble adjusting to her changing voice and the complicated parts of being a teenager. In the background, an even bigger question hung. How would she reinvent herself for the next part of her career? Many child stars find that the charm that made them famous becomes their Achilles heel as they get older. If Celine's identity depended on hitting clear high notes, what would happen if those notes became unreachable? At stake wasn't just a career change, it was her whole sense of self-worth. The gift that made her stand out as a child now required her to chase an ever-rising bar of excellence, just as her body and life circumstances changed around her. As she bravely weathered these changes, the heartbreaking possibility remained that for all her talent, she might lose sight of the simple joys that used to make her happy. Emotional and professional crossroads. When Celine Tam was a teenager, she was at an emotional and professional crossroads. There were persistent claims that her father, Steve Tam, was taking advantage of her fame, and new scandals erupted online, fueled by videos of him criticizing her performances harshly, even though there was no solid evidence to support these claims. The heartbreaking talk only got worse, and Celine found herself at the center of a public debate. Fans noticed that Celine rarely sang anything other than ballads or classic pop anthems, and they wondered aloud on social media if she felt like she was being suffocated. Rumors spread that her father turned down offers to try more modern styles because he didn't want to dilute her brand. In reality, the truth may have been much more complex. Celine may have just felt most comfortable with a certain repertoire, but to the public, this lack of creativity looked like a sign that she wasn't growing as a singer. A red flag that added to Celine's stress was getting invitations to work with international artists. Some big names in Asia and North America expressed interest in duets or special performances. However, negotiations kept getting stuck. Some people said her father's demands for creative control or higher fees were the deal breakers, while others said Celine's own reluctance to depart from her hallmark style was to blame. Either way, each failed collaboration added to the idea that something was stopping her from. As Celine spread her wings, her personal life became more complicated. At the same time, school and friendships became harder to keep up because of the constant attention she was getting. Her classmates saw her as either a celebrity or someone who was never seen. This made her feel alone because she was famous to the world but not with her own friends. In interviews, Celine tried to hide how lonely she was, but small cracks in her demeanor showed more heartbreaking truths. As controversy grew around Steve Tam's actions, Celine often rose. She defended him by saying that he gave up time and money to support her dream. But the constant questions from reporters about whether she felt pressured and whether her father was too strict got to her. She often had to explain that she sang because she loved it, not because she had to. The more she insisted, the more doubters she faced. This never-ending cycle left her stuck between being loyal to her father and wanting a simpler story. Many critics also pointed out the tragedy of when Celine was a child star, she had to deal with problems that adults would normally deal with, like contract negotiations, brand management, and public relations disasters. Bloggers asked if the whole idea of child prodigies like Celine was inherently exploitative. Celine's name became a symbol for the debate, and her performances sometimes showed her raw vulnerability on stage instead of lowering her star power. Fans loved her even more because she was fragile, which made the paradox she lived every day even more intense. As the years went by, Celine Tam approached a moment of renewal. Even though she was still young, she had been under more scrutiny than many adults. The public was still hungry for stories about child stars succeeding or failing, but there were rumors that she was quietly forging a new artistic path. In private, friends said she played around with writing her own songs and scribbling. The public had never seen an introspective side of her. At local charity events, she played stripped-down versions of her hits accompanied by a simple piano or guitar. Audience members commented on how her voice was changing, still powerful, but with the warmth and depth of growing maturity. These smaller-scale performances gave fans new hope. Some saw them as the start of a heartbreaking but hopeful transformation in which a young star let her art lead her away from the constant demands of spectacle. But behind this fragile renaissance, tensions still lingered. Celine Tam, ever vigilant, stayed closely involved in her bookings and repertoire. Critics said that he resisted any major leap into unexplored genres, worried about the commercial risk. Celine's mother also attended these small shows, smiling and supporting her daughter. People wondered if the family had reached a more peaceful place where her daughter's needs could coexist with her father's. But controversies from her time on American Idol still cast long shadows. News outlets dug up old footage whenever they needed a shocking headline, and rumors of father-daughter conflict were recycled, fueling a never-ending cycle of speculation. Even Celine's attempts to connect authentically with fans were sometimes met with skepticism. Was this new direction really hers, or was it just another planned move? Health concerns also lingered. Vocal strain from her early fame had left its mark, prompting doctors to advise caution for a long time. Back-to-back concerts or intense rehearsals could hurt her throat. Behind Celine's beautiful smile, each show had to be carefully planned to avoid injury. What used to be easy for her, belling out high notes as a carefree child, now required measured restraint. In a strange way, this vulnerability made her fans love her even more. Fan forums were full of praise for her persistence, and they pushed the idea that she was more than just the little girl from America's Got Talent. Many people thought she had the strength to make a successful career if she was allowed to experiment without too much interference. In private interviews, Celine hinted that she wanted to write and produce music that spoke to her own experience, which was different from most teenagers, because she had been on global stages and been the subject of harsh criticism from a young age. This gave her a unique view on ambition, loneliness, and how quickly things can change. Fame, she said, she wanted to share songs that would help people who felt misunderstood or who had to take on responsibilities that were too big for their young age. The heartbreak was that she still had to balance two worlds: the well-trained performer who had to dazzle, and the budding songwriter who yearned for real self-expression. In the midst of tragedy and rumors, a glimmer of hope appeared. If Celine could claim her own story, she might avoid the fate of other child stars. However, the path was still dangerous. A slip-up, a fight with her parents, or a media frenzy could bring her fragile renaissance to an abrupt end. But there was also the chance of a more genuine future, just bright enough to balance out the heartbreak that had been a part of her journey for so long. Even though controversy and rumors persisted, Celine Tam kept going, balancing new artistic goals with the weight of her past. Her recent public appearances hinted at a cautious shift. In one heartfelt performance streamed online, she debuted an original song. While Celine's new music isn't at all like the dramatic ballads she used to write as a child, fans loved how vulnerable her lyrics were and said they showed how hard it was for her to be famous at such a young age. Do you think she handled it well? Let us know in the comments, and if you liked this deep dive, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up.